Okay, so today I'm pleased to announce that I'm joined by none other but Simon Zutshi. I just want to say thanks for your time today.
My pleasure, Alex.
So a quick bio about yourself. So Simon Zutshi is an experienced investor, successful entrepreneur, best-selling author, is widely recognised for one of the top wealth creation strategists in the UK. Having started to invest in 1995 and went on to become financially independent at the age of 32, passionate about sharing his experience, Simon founded the Property Investors Network in 2003, which has grown to become the largest property network organisation in the UK, with monthly meetings in 50 cities designed specifically to provide a supportive, educational and inspiring environment for all people to network with and learn from other successful investors. Since 2003, Simon has taught thousands of entrepreneurs and business owners how to successfully invest in a tax-efficient way to create additional streams of income, giving them more time to do things they want to build their own long-term wealth. Simon's book, Property Magic, which is now the 5th edition, became an instant hit when first released in 2008 and remains an Amazon #1 best-selling property book. In 2014, Simon launched the property specialist peer-to-peer lending platform called Crowd Property, which has successfully funded over 5 million of development projects from the crowd. Wow, that's quite something.
It is.
That's a big
Thank you,
bio.
Alex.
Great stuff. So before I start, I'm really intrigued. The name Zutshi, where does that come from?
It's actually, you can't really tell looking at me, I guess. It's an Indian name.
Right, okay.
Actually Kashmiri to be specific. So my dad is half Indian.
Right.
So I'm a quarter Indian, as you can't really tell looking at me. But
okay, that's interesting. Good stuff.
yeah.
So what was it like growing up for you as a child? Was it pretty normal? Tell me a bit more.
I think it was very normal. I think I come from a fairly middle class family. My dad was a doctor. My mum was a nurse when she met my dad, and then got married and became a housewife. And she later went to do some training as a PA. So pretty normal. You know, I didn't come from a deprived background. I think I was, fairly lucky really.
Great. Okay.
So yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
So
nothing unusual about childhood.
Rags to riches or anything like
No,
that?
it wasn't anything like that.
Right, okay,
no.
Great stuff. And I'm intrigued, who is the most influential person, would you say, you as a growing up?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I guess my parents probably. My dad was a GP who worked really hard, so he wasn't around that much. My mum kind of brought me up. But dad was around, weekends and things. And I guess both of them had a pretty big impact on me. And when you asked this question originally, I thought one of my hobbies when I was young was magic.
Well, okay.
And so Paul Daniels
Hence Property Magic.
Well, hence Property Magic, yeah. So Paul Daniels was very big at the time. So he was really inspirational, and that kind of encouraged me to get into magic, and that then led on to, I guess, doing what I do now. I speak and teach other people, and I probably wouldn't be as good at that, or maybe not enjoy it as much if I hadn't built my confidence through doing magic. So
Right, okay.
all these things are stepping stones that lead
absolutely.
to where you get to eventually.
So that's gave you the confidence, the courage to do what
absolutely,
you do now.
I used to be terrified speaking in front, as most people are.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I kind of quite like the showmanship of it, and now I absolutely love it.
So you're developing that from an early age, would you say?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Great stuff. And any fears growing up as a child, would you say?
No, I don't think so. I think when you were a child, you're kind of, I think maybe it's different now, but so when I was a child, it was a few years ago now, it's kind of there's a blissful ignorance about what happens in the world.
Yeah.
And, I didn't have any major concerns really.
Right.
There was one thing, if I'm really honest, I'm very open about this,
Yeah.
is that I've got very short eyesight,
Yeah.
and when I was quite small when I was at my age, and so I guess one fear, well not fear, but a concern that I only really realised when I looked back, because I've done a lot of personal development, and I have a memory of when I was probably about 7 or 8, standing on the side of the touchline at my school, being picked for a football team. And because I was such bad eyesight, I was pretty crap at football. I'd always be one of the last people to be picked.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, please don't be last. There's going to be someone who's worse than me. And so maybe that fear of being picked has kind of shaped me a little bit.
Right, okay.
And so maybe in a good and a bad way.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the only fear. But it was a very deep thing. We have a lot of deep-seated things that we're not conscious of, but have an impact on what we do in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And what would you say, as a child, when you was playing football, how old was you back then?
8, 9 when I started then.
And how young would you say was the early signs of entrepreneurship for you when getting into business?
Well, I think I've always been quite entrepreneurial, always wanted to make a bit of extra money, pocket money and things like that.
Yeah.
So I kind of had a few jobs, and I guess the main one, the most significant one, was when I took my hobby, my passion of magic, and started being paid to do shows. And I was doing that about age 13, 14. And it's probably before my friends were just starting to work in kind of news agents and things. They might get paid like £15 for a whole Saturday working, and I'd go and do a 40-minute show one Saturday afternoon, and I'd get paid 20 quid. So I'd get a much higher rate, and that's when I learned about, again, looking back, sometimes you don't release these things at the time.
Yeah.
Learned about, if you have specialist knowledge and skills, you get paid more than the average person.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. So imagine me and you are friends at school, okay, both the same age, best friends. Would I bet on you being the person you are today?
Probably not, because I wouldn't have thought I'd be the person I am today.
Right, okay. Any reason why specifically?
I'm entrepreneurial, but I think if I look, by the way, I've made loads of mistakes. I've been quite successful as well.
Yep.
And I think I've still got a lot more to do, and I've got a lot of ambition where I want to go. But if I look at some of the things which I didn't think I'd be an author of a book, a lot of things I've done, I never would have dreamed that I would do. It just didn't occur to me. So would a friend have guessed that? Maybe not. I think they probably thought I'd have my own business, maybe.
Right, okay. And did you deep down know that maybe you was going to go on an entrepreneurial route and become successful?
I guess, I say, wanted to have my own business, maybe, yeah. I was very much led down the go to school, go to university, get a good job kind of route. So that's kind of the path I followed, but deep down I was kind of a desire to have my own business.
Okay, great stuff. And do you see any of your close friends still, or anything like that?
Yeah, I've got a few friends from school, a few from uni. My parents, we come from the south of England, lived in Kent, and my parents retired when I went to university.
Right.
So whereas a lot of my friends might go home back to Kent at Christmas and stuff, I didn't do that because I went to South of France instead, which is quite cool,
nice,
which was okay. But so I kind of lost touch with a few people. But yeah, I guess things like Facebook now, you're kind of in touch with more people than you would be otherwise.
And you mentioned uni. So what did you study at uni?
I went to university and I did a 4-year combined honours degree in Birmingham University.
Okay.
I did manufacturing, engineering and business studies.
Wow.
And the only reason I did that was because I really wanted to do business studies, but I wasn't smart enough to do business studies.
Right, okay.
Well, theoretically, you have to get good A-level results, and I didn't quite get what I wanted. Yeah. So I went the engineering route, and they were keen to get people into engineering. So I kind of got into a lot of the business through the back door, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always kind of think of the situation where a lot of students these days get taught to, it's a norm to go into university and take out debt, but not are taught to be financially independent, which is kind of a messed up system in my point of view.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm just wondering, what's your thoughts on people going to university and getting the degree and they want to become successful? Would you say that they would have to necessarily take that route?
No, I don't think you have to go to university. I think there are several things about university. I think going to university, moving away from home, living with other people, I think that kind of develops you in a way that it doesn't happen if you just stay at home. So I think you get a certain rounding of your personality, maybe a bit more independence than if you're at home. But as far as the actual studies concerned, unless I think you want to go into something like medicine, or you want to be an architect or a lawyer, where you need a very specific degree, I think a lot of people just go to university because, well, it's the thing they do. They're going to get a random degree. They don't really want to use that degree. Someone who goes to university, it might show a certain capacity for learning, etc. But you know what? There are so many graduates who come out who don't have jobs. Yeah. And if you want to employ someone right now, you can get someone in an admin job who's a graduate, because there are so many graduates around and available. So I think it's dangerous if someone goes just because they want to go to university and they don't really know what they want to do, and they think, I'll get a degree because I need to get a degree. Well, I don't think you need to. If someone is entrepreneurial and they can start up their own business, why not start your own business up? And a lot of people do training programs in businesses that they're not graduates, but they progress through the business just as quick if they're smart. So I don't think you need to go to university, but I think education is really important.
It can help, absolutely. Okay, so one of the things Ultra-Preneur is find out kind of what separates us successful from the unsuccessful.
Yes.
And I'm intrigued, all the people I'm going to be interviewing is kind of find out what it is they do differently compared to the people who aren't succeeding or who want to succeed. So I'm really intrigued. Can you explain what your morning routine is? Yeah,
I have a very fixed routine.
Okay, great.
So get up in the morning, normally about 6 o'clock. I have water because you're dehydrated when you get up. I have hot lemon and water as well.
Any reason for the lemon?
Yeah, it's about alkalising your body.
Okay, great.
Which is, I won't go into that, that's a long thing. I'm trying to get more into health at the moment, and alkalising your body is a really good thing to do. So even though lemons are acidic, they burn as alkaline in your body. So I do that.
Great stuff.
And then I do some yoga. Not a lot, just 15 minutes or so, just to stretch out.
Okay.
And I do some meditation.
Okay.
And I sometimes do a bit of exercise, not every morning, but most mornings.
Great stuff. In regards to the meditation, what kind of things did you just sit in silence or?
I sit in silence. I've got certain things I'm thinking about. So I try and clear my mind, which is really hard to do.
Yeah.
And it takes practice. And I think yoga is one of those things. Meditation, you find what's right for you. I don't think there's anyone you must do it this way.
Yeah.
I've tried a few different things. You find out what works for you and what's comfortable.
Yeah.
What I've also tried to do is make it a habit. If it's I've got to do my meditation, that's not the right sentiment behind it. It's something I now do, and I'm working with one of my coaches to put habits like this in place so that it becomes part of who you are.
Okay. In regards to, you just said something about basically it's hard to clear your head.
Yes.
And I find that with myself, it's very hard to clear my head. Where if I'm in the shower, I'm lying in bed trying to get to sleep, something will pop in my head, and I'll have to write it down or something, an idea. Do you think that's a common thing with
Yeah, it's great. And
entrepreneurs?
if you can't sleep, by the way, great idea to go and write stuff down that's on your mind, get it out of your head, and then you'll often sleep much better. So
Great.
I'm always coming up with ideas.
Oh, great stuff. And with regards to your health, and you said you touched on that, you're trying to improve that. Do you work out regularly? Do you train?
I walk, because I don't drive.
Okay.
I walk everywhere.
Okay.
So I try and get to 10,000 steps in a day, which is pretty good for your heart.
Absolutely,
That's the recommended amount.
Yep.
I like to swim.
Yep.
So I swim. My favourite sport is skiing. I've just come back from a long weekend skiing.
Fantastic.
With some friends. I try to go 2-3 times a year.
Amazing.
And in the summer I cycle a bit as well.
Great.
So I go to the gym occasionally. I actually did go this morning, but it's not a very regular thing.
Yeah. And eating healthy is a part with the work.
I have an 80-20 principle.
Right, okay.
I like chocolate. I like alcohol.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say I'm never going to have them again.
Right.
But I had a dry January, and at the end of January I thought, I'm just going to continue this, and it all worked until I went skiing. But but you know what? I think it's you don't beat yourself up about trying to be good. It's about decisions, conscious decisions, and if most of the time you're picking the healthy option, occasionally you can have whatever you want.
Great stuff. Fantastic. And skiing, is that a hobby of yours?
So I've been doing it a long time. I was fortunate enough to start when I was about 10. I went with my parents for a number of years, and then I didn't do it at university for a while, and I was supposed to go to university, and I fell and broke one of the bones in my foot. Not very handy for skiing, so I had to cancel that one. And then for various reasons I didn't go. I had girlfriends who weren't into skiing, and it was only about 12 years ago that there was an opportunity. I went skiing and just got back into it massively, so I go a lot now.
Right, great stuff.
I love it.
Great, I've never been. I need to go.
Oh, Alex, you should definitely go.
I need to. Yeah, absolutely. I'm scared of breaking a bone.
That can happen. It can happen, but you're pretty unlucky if that happens these days.
Great stuff.
And I'm thinking about in the next season hiring a chalet for the whole season.
Wow.
And then living out there and popping back to the UK when I need to. So I'll put you on the list.
Yeah, please do. That's phenomenal. Absolutely. Is there anything else you do to unwind? I mean, having successful businesses and having a lot of staff.
So I like watching films. I love watching films.
Okay.
That's great.
What's your favourite film?
My favourite film, Monty Python, The Life of Brian.
Right. Okay.
Which is a very
That's interesting.
very clever film.
Right.
I like first Star Wars is amazing as well, and Shawshank Redemption. Loads of great films.
Yep.
So films is one, and also I actually quite like cooking. Because I like eating, I like cooking, and I think it's much better to cook fresh rather than eat prepared food.
Yep.
And that kind of helps me unwind and relax.
Okay. And what kind of food do you cook? Is it?
I'm a meat eater.
Right. Okay.
So I do a pretty amazing roast chicken.
Nice.
Do a nice lasagna.
Very nice.
Fajitas.
Wow.
A bit of fish.
I like it.
I do like salads as well, but mainly meat.
Right.
I'm cutting down the amount of meat I eat though.
Oh yeah, I'm not the best of cooks at all. So,
You're not?
No, I'm not. You need to teach some lessons sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So what's interesting, I've been studying entrepreneurship for a while and businesses over the years, and something that always comes up in the kind of topic of what I'm researching is that a lot of successful millionaire entrepreneurs always are very selective about their peer group and who they surround themselves with. I mean, do you think that's a crucial factor in becoming successful?
Yeah, it's really important.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
So, for example, I went skiing last weekend with 3 other friends.
Yeah.
And I've been skiing quite a long time, but I would say they're all better skiers than me. Okay. And so by putting myself in an environment where I'm not the best and I'm kind of pulled up, so I'm rushing to keep up with them. They're very good, they weight and stuff, but we're doing some deep powder stuff, bits deep powder snow, and I wouldn't have done that 5 years ago. So by putting in a group where I'm stretched and pulled, I get better. So
that.
first of all, you should always put yourself in a group that's going to stretch and pull you.
Yep.
And also, the more successful you get, you find there are less people around you, family and friends, who you can talk to about what you're doing because they don't get it. They're not there.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with them and you love them, but they're just not the right people.
As in mindset level?
Mindset, yeah.
Right.
So I specifically look for groups to go and join where you meet up with people, and probably the most lavish one I did was when I went to Necker Island.
Wow.
With a group of entrepreneurs, and it was a week away. It was a business trip, obviously, because the business paid for it. But it was stretching mindset. You know, there wasn't so much new content per se, but just hanging around some ultra successful people and seeing what they do, and that's why I started meditating.
Wow,
because out of all of them, probably about 90% meditate. I thought, you know what? If it works for them, why don't I do it myself?
That's amazing. And just for the viewers, if no one knows, but actually Necker Island is owned by Richard Branson.
Yeah,
is
it's
that
Richard
right?
Branson. Where's where he lives? Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Did you
So he was there for the whole week.
Wow.
Yeah. When you go to Necker Island, there's no guarantee he'll be there.
Yep.
But you can go and stay there. But the group I went with has been for 7 years. He knows them really well, and we contributed extra money to Virgin Unite, which is a charity. So he's there for that trip, and he says he will be here for at least a couple of dinners.
Wow.
It just so happened his wife was away that week, so he was there for every breakfast, every lunch, and every dinner.
Oh, that is
so
awesome.
it was great.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And that is definitely raising the standards, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with regards to personal development, I mean, of raising your kind of stretching yourself in your comfort zone, which is a great personal development technique. Could you name like 3 techniques that you use or you've used over the years that really
definitely.
kind of help you become successful?
There were so many. Let me try and get to some of them. First of all, I think one that I learned about, I thought, well, sure, that can't work, but it does. It's just writing down your goals.
Yep.
So kind of getting clear on what you actually want to achieve and writing it down. And I think not doing it on a computer or a notebook, but writing with pen on paper, some magic happens when you do that.
Why do you think that? Is it subconscious?
I think it's about it because you've written all your life. I think it just goes into you have to think about rather than just tapping keys. You're just thinking about it a bit more because you're not just thinking about the way you're thinking about writing it as well. I don't know. Maybe that's why it is.
And would you write that in present tense, past tense? How would you write that?
That's very interesting.
Okay.
So normal goals, you might say, I want to have this, I want to have that.
Yep.
So you're saying, this is what I want to have. The challenge with saying what you want to have is it suggests actually there's a lack, because saying, well, you don't have it now.
Right, okay.
So I've started doing something called future vision, where you actually write yourself a letter. You imagine it's the end of the year. So 31st of December, and you write a letter and saying how grateful you are for all the incredible things that have already happened in your life.
It's amazing.
And so it's the same way as writing what you want, but it's just writing past tense. And your subconscious doesn't know the difference in what's right and wrong.
Yes.
So you can put stuff into your mind and it will believe it, whether it's right or good or negative.
So whatever you give it, it accepts fact.
Yes,
right.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you do that, combined with the next strategy, which is visualization, so you actually see it happening to you, you imagine it's there, you feel it's great. Wow. And that's the third thing as well. And very often it's human nature is we worry about things. You know, I worry about things.
I worry about
we
things.
all have problems and challenges.
Yep.
And so what happens is we worry about things, and sometimes those things never happen. And so one of my friends, a guy called Richard Wilkins, who I think you've seen speak before.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's got a great saying. He says, well, rather than worry about the bad things, why not look forward to the good things?
Yeah.
So if you book a holiday or something, start imagining right now what it's like and feeling, experience, and get happy because you had a great holiday.
Yeah.
You might not have a great holiday, but hopefully you will. So why not imagine it's good? So you feel how great it would be if all the things work for you.
I like that.
It's a way of thinking about. It's living life with a positive expectation.
Yeah.
That things are going to go your way rather than what most people think is, oh, what's going to happen? They're going to have all these problems.
That's interesting. There's a quote by Tony Robbins. I know you're a big fan of Tony Robbins.
Yes, indeed,
yourself. Stop thinking of all the things that can go wrong and start thinking of all the things that go right. And that outlook and shift in mindset has had phenomenal results for me.
Absolutely.
As well as other people.
And I guess linked to that, so if I can have a fourth one, and that's come from Tony Robbins, which is the importance of gratitude.
Yeah.
So being thankful for all the things we do have in our lives, because look, we all have things go wrong, we all have challenges, and in fact, I think the more successful you get, the bigger your problems get.
Yeah.
Because you have to deal with bigger things, right? But actually having gratitude and sitting down is one of the things I do in the morning. I have a little notebook and think, what am I grateful for?
Yeah.
And if you're ever depressed or you're feeling down, the way to pull yourself out of that is start thinking about all the blessings you have.
Wow. That's powerful.
Because we all have great things in our lives.
That's really powerful. Yeah. And how would you show gratitude? Would you say it to yourself? How would you say it to yourself?
You just write it. You sit there. You think it. I think it's feeling it's important because you go on a different vibration if you actually have that positive feeling, you know. And it can be small things. It could be, look, thanks for the amazing sunrise we had this morning, because the natural beauty. And thanks that I can actually see the sunrise, and thanks that I'm here this morning and I'm alive and I'm breathing.
Okay.
You know.
So it doesn't have to be materialistic things.
Doesn't have to be thanks for the big house I'm sitting in.
Yeah.
It can be just tiny little things.
Of course. Okay.
You know.
Great stuff. Fantastic. So, I want to talk a bit more about business now.
Okay.
And my first question to you probably is about how did you create or build such a phenomenal brand and company and family like the Property Investors Network?
So it kind of happened a little bit by accident, if I'm honest.
Okay.
Again, through Tony Robbins, I started attending Tony Robbins events. I went to his big event, We Walk on Fire, Unleash the Power Within, in the year 2000.
It's amazing. I've been myself.
It's great.
Yeah, really good.
And that really shifted the way I would think about life, really, and everything. And I realised that actually we are responsible for everything that happens in our life, good and bad. It's all down to us.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, this is great. And he talks about getting into the environment. He says, you know, if you want to be someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, world-class bodybuilder, it was at the time, you can't just go to the gym once.
Yeah.
You need to keep going back to the gym.
Yeah.
And if you want mindset, you need to keep on putting yourself in the right environment. You've got to keep on mixing with the right kind of people. And at the time, I had finished work. I was working at Cadbury's, so I went after I'd finished university. And I was there for 5.5, 6 years. I pretty much replaced my income, so I left my full-time job, and that was a big decision to make.
Okay. And how did you replace your income? Sorry.
From my property.
Right, okay.
From my property
so you
income
invested before?
Yes, I bought my first house in 95.
Great.
And I rented out some of the rooms to my friends who were still at uni.
Yeah.
That paid the mortgage, and then 98 bought another one, started to speed up, bought a few more.
Right.
And I pretty much, in the year 2000, earned more than I did from my full-time job at Cadbury's, part-time doing property. And so in 2001 I left, and I wasn't quite passive because I was flipping properties and things. So it took me a couple of years, but by the time I got to 2003, I completely replaced my previous income from Cadbury's. And it was, just to put it into context, it was about £27,000 at that time that I was earning.
Still,
which was reasonable.
Yeah,
I'm talking, 2001, so it's quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
So it was a reasonable salary at the time.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was going to business networking meetings. So I met a great solicitor, I met a great accountant, mortgage broker, all the things I needed for my property business.
Yeah.
But none of them really had much property.
Okay.
And I thought I wanted to meet more people because, none of my family were really investing, and my friends were investing, and it felt quite lonely.
You're right, okay.
So I thought, well, maybe I can get a group together who can sit around and talk about property. So I decided to start a meeting, just did it in my flat at first, I was living at the time. Got some friends around and more people came, so we went to a local hotel, and that was the start of the Property Investors Network.
Wow.
So I didn't have the vision to create what it is now.
Yep.
What would happen is people would come and they'd learn, and I realised that I actually quite enjoyed teaching about property. And then I realised people would pay me for it, I thought even better. Yeah. And then people would come and say, well, this is great, Simon, but this is really good, but I don't really want to travel all the way to Birmingham to do it. Can I start a meeting in Manchester or Oxford or whatever? Yeah. So people who'd done some training with me, done quite well, said, yeah, okay, you can do that. And I'd generally go along and be the speaker, and they'd kind of host it. And then it got to the point where there were too many meetings I was going to. So I thought, I need to grow this, I need to get other people involved. So more people wanted to become hosts of the meetings, and we got speakers to go along and speak, and this kind of thing just started to grow.
Wow.
And we got to about 8 or 9 meetings. I had someone else working the business with me. He said, look, I said, right, I want to have 40 meetings now. He said, you can't do 40 meetings. And he was right. We couldn't do 40 meetings the way we were doing it. And sometimes in business, what works for a while may not be able to take you to the next stage.
Yeah,
So you sometimes need to adapt what you're doing.
Like a pivot.
Yeah, and make a change. And we made a change, we invested in some better systems, and then we grew the meeting to 40, and then now there are 50 meetings around the country.
Wow, absolutely amazing. And back then when you first started, did you ever envision that it would become so successful?
No, not really. I didn't think it would be anything other than just a meeting in Birmingham.
And other things started to play as soon as it progressed. New ideas started to come in, and you started to replace it.
Yeah, that's right.
And was there, you mentioned Tony Robbins, that you kind of thought of the idea, so to speak.
Yes.
But was there a turning point, for example, like I have to succeed? Because if for those who don't know, I'm a student of the Property Investor Network, and I've changed my life. but I can specifically telling myself, right, Alex, this is it. I have to succeed now, and to kind of to suck it up and.
Well, I think there was, if I'm right, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Alex, but there was a time, I mean, you came and did some training with us, and you got great value from that, and you thought, actually, I could go and do this on my own, but actually I know if I committed and got in the right environment, had support, I'd get there much quicker, which is what you did, and obviously it worked for you.
Yes, absolutely.
And I know it was a big financial commitment for you at the time, so you kind of put some of your life savings into it, and so you had to make it work. Whereas I didn't really have a turning point as such like that, because I'd already left work because of the income from my property, and it was just kind of what I was doing. And if anything, I probably didn't grow it as fast as I could have done.
Okay.
Partly because I didn't need to. I was making my money from my property, and I was kind of doing it because I enjoyed doing it, and it was a bit like a lifestyle business at first.
Okay.
So I probably, if I'd quit a job and I had to make it work, I probably would have done it bigger and faster.
And by when you say lifestyle choice, you mean you enjoyed it and it was just something
I enjoyed it. It didn't make a huge amount of money at first, to be honest. I was just doing it because I wanted to do it, and I wanted to be around other people who were like-minded.
Wow, okay.
So sometimes people don't always do things for money. There are lots of other reasons why they do things.
Definitely, absolutely. And I mean, with launching the business and growing it, what would you say is the hardest thing that you've experienced about building such a brand company?
As you get bigger, there are more pulls and requirements on your time, and managing your time has got to be one of the biggest challenges most entrepreneurs face, I believe. And the secret to that obviously is leverage. It's bringing other people in, but that brings a whole host of extra problems. You know, you've got to manage people, you've got to pay them, and a big mistake I see many people make in a business is they're trying to do everything themselves, and some things they're really good at and some things they're just not very good at, and they should get someone else to do it. And this day and age with virtual assistants and things, you know, I do think now is a golden age. For someone who's starting a business now, I think there's so much more opportunity because you've got the internet, you've got access to the whole world, you've got cheaper resources, you've got ways of spreading your message. You know, when I started, there wasn't Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I speak to these people all the time with, for example, Henry Ford and Edison, and they had to do a business deal. They had to horse and carriage, send letters and stuff. And now
pigeon, whatever it was.
Exactly. And now you can just send basically a text or.
I was on a Skype this morning to someone who's sitting in Greece. He was sitting in Athens. I was in Birmingham. We're chatting away, just like in the same room. Incredible.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, what would you say is the best thing that you've experienced in business, and what do you enjoy about it?
I think one of the best things for any business owner is the freedom you have.
Okay.
You know, you choose how you control your day. If you're in a job, you have to be there a certain time, you leave there a certain time, and that's it. You're kind of constrained, whereas you have complete flexibility when you have your own business. So, for example, I went away just for a few days, and I went on the Thursday night. I was off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back Monday lunchtime. I didn't have to go Friday night, be back Sunday night. You know, you just do what you want. Wow,
that's amazing. And you travel quite a lot, don't you?
I love travel, so I do lots of travel. Yes.
Great stuff. So I would agree. Having your own business is absolutely about freedom for me.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree with that. So, what would you say is probably, in your personal experience, is one of the toughest things you've been through? Specifically, can you think of an experience where you've gone through and this is really hard?
I've had all sorts of things. I've had lots of challenges. I've had, you know, where you've had to, maybe someone's not performing in the team. You've got to get rid of someone, which is really difficult to do because I like to think we have this kind of nice family feeling and environment. So getting rid of someone's really difficult.
And how many employees do you have?
I have at the moment. Well, I've got about 12 in the main business. Wow. I've got 4 in crowd property. I've got, through all the hosts, we've got 50 hosts. It's more like 60 because some of them are couples, partners, and then I've got about 25 coaches as well. They're not all employees. Some of them are partners and work with us. But so there's a lot of people that I could interact with, and the challenge is, you know, having the time to do all of that. So you've got to delegate. You've got to get other people to help you. Right.
Okay. Fantastic. And with regards to, I know you talked about increasing the meetings to 40 to 50 and expanding it. I mean, as an entrepreneur, that can be quite difficult to kind of pivot, change something, because you're so focused on what you want to do for your own business.
Yes.
How does an entrepreneur overcome that? How does an entrepreneur grow the business? Who do they?
I think a couple of things. I think first of all, not reinventing the wheel is quite a smart thing.
Okay.
You know, there's probably someone who's done what you want to do before.
Yeah.
So go and seek them out.
Yeah.
And at this day and age, you can find people on LinkedIn and Facebook and stuff. So
Yeah.
go and find someone. And, you know, whenever I want to do something different, I'm a great believer in investing in myself. So I will go and I'll find the best person I can and I'll pay them to teach me. They might have a course or training, it might be one-on-one mentoring, whatever it might be, and I will go and find the resource. When you're first starting out, sometimes people can't do that because they don't have the budget.
Yeah.
But actually, do you want to take years and years to learn how to do something, or do you want to learn how to do it in months? And actually, our most valuable asset that people don't get is time.
Yeah.
And so you've really got to value your time. I think that's a mistake many people make when they're starting a business. They don't value their time. They're doing lots of things they really shouldn't be doing.
Right, okay. And would you say, is that another reason why other people fail, or would you say, is that the only reason?
That's not the only reason,
No.
but it's definitely one reason that they're too busy, they're not doing the right stuff. I mean, I don't claim to be perfect at this, but I'm always trying to think, what's the highest value activity I can focus on, and everything else delegate to someone else.
Right, great stuff.
In property, you know, we're property investors. I see many people, because they want to save money, let's say you do a refurb, they'll do stuff themselves in the property.
Yeah.
And so I've done this in the past. I bought a house in 2000, I renovated it. These hands aren't very good at that kind of stuff, but I can paint, right? Yeah. So I was painting the house. Yeah. I was still working full time, so I spent evenings and weekends painting this house. And I probably saved myself about 500 quid instead of getting a decorator to do it. But if I think about all the time I spent doing that, if I'd spent that time getting out finding the next deal, I could have made £10,000, which is what I made on that deal, rather than save myself 500. So sometimes people are so thinking about what they're saving, they're not thinking about what it's costing them to do that.
That's interesting, actually. Yeah, I think that's something I need to learn as well. Actually, is actually focus my time on doing things that are probably going to progress my business forward a bit more, and kind of let go. Of certain things.
And it is hard to let go because as entrepreneurs sometimes we're control freaks. We want to control everything ourselves, and you can do that, but you're not going to be able to grow if you do. It's going to stall the way you grow.
Okay, and so when do you decide to focus on a specific thing? Where do you kind of put your focus when your business is going along?
If I'm honest, it's probably when it's urgent, which is not the best way to do it. But if you've got lots going on, you're juggling things, something like, okay, what's the most urgent thing? And that's not the best thing you should do. Maybe you should focus on the most important things. The thing's going to move forward. And one of my coaches I'm working with at the moment is really working with me to get time to block out in my diary that I'm just focusing on the really important things. Because if you go into work, you don't have a plan what you're going to do, your day will just taken over by emails and other distractions and things. So planning in really focused time, where you can focus on a particular task, and you just do that. You turn off your phone, turn off all your email alerts, focus time, and I found that really helps me move forward.
Great stuff. And in regards to your own business, where do you focus your time specifically?
So in my business, I love speaking. So getting out and speaking is one of the things I do. I love creating content. I do a lot of the marketing because I like the creative side of that. So those are the areas I generally spend most of my time in.
Great stuff, fantastic. And business can be troublesome, I'm sure you know, and obviously it's not always ups, there's always some downs as well. How would you say you mentally lift yourself out of the tough times when things go wrong?
We all have bad days when I don't want to do this anymore, and that kind of happens. And then I think, why am I doing it? I might ask myself, why am I doing this? But then just thinking back and kind of thinking, well, what am I trying to achieve? Does this meet my aspirations? Does it meet my values? Do I get fulfilled by this? And if the answer is no to those questions, well, maybe you shouldn't be doing what you're doing, because sometimes people do a business for all sorts of wrong reasons. But if you are in line with your values, if you are getting, recognize there are always ups and downs. There's going to be polarity in everything. So it's not going to be great all the time, but you just want to make sure the results you are getting far outweigh the down times you have. And then things like I mentioned earlier, gratitude. So stopping and thinking, actually, what have I got to be thankful for? And sometimes when you're down, that can be really a piece of paper and a pen, and you think, oh, what have I got to? And then you start thinking about the small things and keep going. You have this list, and it's really hard to be upset by the end of doing that list. Yeah,
that's amazing. And in regards to bad choices in business, I mean, as the business has grown, I'm sure there's some choices that you may not have been.
I've made all sorts of mistakes. I guess the point is, if you make a critical mistake, you'll kind of lose it all. So it hasn't happened. But I've picked wrong business partners for joint ventures. I've made some investments in business that haven't necessarily been the best thing.
Yeah.
I've wasted time and effort.
Yeah.
I've allowed things to upset me, get on my nerves, you know. So yeah, lots of challenges.
Absolutely.
And I think it's just about, you just have to recognise it's not going to be easy. I think sometimes people are looking for the get rich quick.
Yeah.
And having your own business is not a get rich quick. You can make some really good money, but guess what? You have to put a load of work in, load of effort, and you get the results once you put the effort in.
Definitely.
You know, you've got to
consistently
do it, because sometimes people, they dabble, they try something, it doesn't work straight away. Oh, that doesn't work, I'll do something else. And they keep on running from shiny penny to shiny penny and wonder why they don't get the results.
And then time goes, and time goes, and you're old, and then you think,
exactly. Think, what the hell happened?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with regards to joining the mastermind program for myself, it's been an amazing result. I mean, when you first saw someone become successful from investing in your teachings, how did that feel for you? How did that?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was before mastermind, so I used to do 1 and 2 day courses, and so we train people, and we always get feedback, try and make our events better. So we get a feedback form, and everyone will always say, oh, it's really good, love it, etc. Because we always give massive value on our training. But actually what it comes down to is what people implement from the training.
Yeah.
And so this was 2003, 4, 5. People do courses, and they'd come back to PIN meetings a couple of months later, and I'd say, hey, how you doing? And they say, oh, I did what you said and it worked, and I get a massive buzz. That's one of the reasons I do what I do.
For so long as well.
Because it keeps you going, because I just love it.
Yeah.
But then also, I used to get frustrated when people would say, oh, I've not done it yet. And it was back then, when the market was absolutely booming, you could buy anything today and it would be up in value in 6 months' time.
Yes.
Anybody could borrow money. It was so easy, and yet some people still didn't do it. And that's why I realised that knowledge alone is not enough.
Okay.
What you need to have is support and mindset, and that's why we created the mastermind program, which you came on in 2007, because we said, well, let's teach you this stuff, but we're not just going to run a course, we're going to teach a course, then we're going to go away, come back a month later, and we get them to share their key learnings, so you're not just learning from your experience, from everyone else's, so you accelerate your learning curve.
And that's about surrounding yourself with
surround yourself with other like-minded people.
You as well.
Exactly, and people, so the people who are more successful maybe, but also, but you see other people who are just like you, who are also doing it, and think, well, if they can do it, I can do it as well. So it stimulates belief, you get accelerated learning, and all of this happens in this incredible environment. And well, as you know yourself, the results speak for themselves, and people achieve amazing things.
Yeah. And with regards to, you touched on belief, I mean, how important is belief?
Belief is so important. You can know how to do something, but if you don't believe that it's possible, or don't believe you can do it, you're not going to take the necessary action to do it. Because you think, oh, well, it's not going to work out, so I might as well not do it. So belief is critical. And when people talk about mindset, and they bandy around this idea, what is mindset? For me, it's 3 things. It's the ABC, as I call it. So A is for attitude. You've got to have this positive, can-do attitude, the positive expectation things are going to work for you. The glass is half full, it's not half empty. That's the first thing. B is for belief. You've got to believe what's possible and what you can actually do as well. And then C is for courage. You've got to have the confidence to step out of your comfort zone, because your success lies just outside your comfort zone. It's waiting for you there.
I love that. That is so good. I'm going to take that away, definitely.
Feel free to use it.
That's phenomenal. So with regards to building the brand, again, we talk about the Property Investors Network, and starting out, in this day and age, there's Facebook and there's Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. I mean, from a startup point of view, how would you recommend a young budding entrepreneur would get over the anxiety of putting their brand out there, their face out there, kind of get over that fear of...
The idea of speaking to, I much prefer speaking to people live than speaking to cameras. I'm used to it now, but it's kind of, I find it really hard because you don't have the same rapport and connection. I love connecting with people. So, but you can practice. You can put a camera up in your room, you just talk to it, and the more you do it, the better you'll get. And the other thing is, what stops a lot of people is, a lot of people are very self-conscious. They think, oh, what will other people think? And you know what? Tony Robbins, to quote Tony Robbins again, we're both big fans of Tony. He's got a saying that says, what other people think of you is none of your business.
That's amazing. It's true.
And people might make a momentary judgment about you, and they, oh, I don't like that video, and then they're straight back to thinking about them, because they don't care about you. I'm sorry, but they don't. People don't care about you. They only care about themselves.
And they've got their other things going on.
And the only other thing, so You might think they're all thinking about you all the time. I'm sorry to disappoint you, they're not, because they're thinking about themselves. So get out your own way and just put something out there. And the first time you do it, it might be all right. Next time you do it, it's going to be better. And the more you do it, the better you get. And I first started speaking, I was okay, I wasn't great.
Yeah.
I think I'm a pretty good speaker now, but only because I've done it so many times, and that practice through experience is the best way to learn.
Great. And having the mindset in thinking that, you know what, I may be shit now, so to speak.
Yeah.
But you're going to get better.
Unless you start, you're always going to be shit.
Yeah.
So everyone's got to start somewhere.
And that's it. Just practice, put in the work.
And my thought, if you've got some value to give, if you're an expert in something, or you've got some experience and you get out there and share it with people, you know, it doesn't really matter if you don't convey the message in the best way. It's the message that's important. So as long as people get it, you think, you know, I'm really glad I watched that.
And the value you give it.
You've helped change someone in a tiny little way. And it is exactly what you said, Alex, it's all about value. If you want to be successful in business, you've got to think, how can I give value to someone else?
Great.
And as long as you're always thinking, how can I improve the value, you're going to be successful whatever you do.
That's phenomenal. And let's touch on that. I can't remember where I heard this from, but the correlation between the financial independence and becoming a millionaire is equivalent to how much value you give to the marketplace.
Absolutely,
and I think that's so true.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal. With regards to mentorship, so Mastermind is kind of a mentorship program. I've been mentored, and I was one of my first mentors.
Yes.
How important is that to success?
I think it's really important. So there's a difference for me between a coach and a mentor. And so if I'm going to explain what my understanding of that is. So a coach is someone who won't actually tell you what to do. They'll ask you great questions, and a coach really doesn't need to know anything about what you're doing, because they're not going to tell you what to do, but they're going to guide you and support you and encourage you, okay? Whereas a mentor is probably someone who is more experienced than you in business or in property, whatever it is, and they'll use an element of coaching, but they'll also tell you what you need to do. And having someone who's got that experience more so than you can bounce ideas off them, and they will help stretch you and grow you and point you in the right direction. So a mentor is really important. I have 2 mentors at the moment for business, and they're different, and so they help me with different things.
Okay, great stuff. And would you have, you touched on going to the best person in that, for example, if you need help in one area of business, then you'd pay that person.
Yeah, find the best person in that area. Because sometimes, you might find someone who's very successful, and they could help in lots of different ways, but are they the best person to help in that specific area? So I will look for someone who can help me in that particular area. If you diving down to give you an example, let's look at something like property tax. Yeah. Property tax is quite a specialist subject, but even within property tax, there are lots of different areas. So I wouldn't just go to one person, tell me property tax, depending what specific thing, and I'm at quite a deep level of knowledge there, I would go to the person who's got the explicit information and experience I need in that particular area, rather than someone else.
And you're saving tons of time as well.
So tons of time and money. And paying people for good advice is such a smart thing to do. Yeah. Because you can try and work it out yourself, make all sorts of mistakes, and actually if you apply the advice, you've got to be careful who you get it from, but if you get it from the right person and apply that, you should more than make your money back many, many times over.
Okay, great stuff. And with regards to, you've got to be very productive in building any business, I believe. Yeah. What would you say is 3 of your most productive key points from building a business to going across your life or whatever it may be?
So in business, I'd say leverage is one of them. So look for leverage. Okay. So for example, if you have got a new product, let's say these videos you're creating, Alex, to give people some information and inspiration. You come to someone like me who's got a good list. Say, Simon, I'd like to interview you because obviously you've benefited from doing training with us. So you've personally experienced. But I might be prepared to send it out to my list. I might have a much bigger list than you. So I can get you more exposure and credibility you might get on your own. So that's leverage. Great. So thinking about who can you link in with, what can you give someone of value to them so they want to work with you. And it's too many people have this attitude about what am I going to get out of this? Well, rather than thinking of, I think what can I give first of all, and then you might get something in return.
I completely hit the nail on the head. So as part of the mastermind, I met some amazing JV partners myself, joint venture partners for those who don't know what that means. And one of my investors, Simon Platt, said he never looks what he can take from the JV relationship, and he's always said that what he can give to the relationship. And I believe, I mean, we've got numerous properties together now, and I think that kind of mindset shift is crucial to long-term success. I think it's quite
it goes back to the thing we said about adding value to other people. If you add value to other people, you'll make money. Simple as that.
Good.
So that was the first point. Second, I think focus, getting clear on what you want, and just sticking to that one thing, rather than having a scattergun approach where people they jump from one thing to the other. They never give things a real chance to work, because business can be hard. It does require some time and effort, and sometimes people just don't put enough work in. They're not persistent enough. They give up too soon. So that's really important.
And in regards to, focus, touch on first, is how do you get focused? Is there a time where you say, right, phone's off?
I do, yeah.
I'm going to nail this.
Specific time in the diary when that's it, I'm doing whatever I'm doing.
Like 90 minutes?
No, 60 minutes.
60 minutes.
So actually 55 minutes, then 5-minute rest time.
Great.
In fact, I'm just working on one of my coaches. So I've got 60-minute sessions in my diary. We're actually working is doing what we call a 60-60-30.
Okay.
So 60 minutes, 55 and 5-minute break, and then another 60 minutes, 55 and 5-minute break, and then half an hour completely off, doing something completely different.
Oh, okay.
So you get 2 really good hours, but you need to have some recovery time, because the problem is you can't keep going all the time. If you keep, and this is a lesson I've learned, you've got to have some downtime, you've got to have some relaxation put in there, because you've got to recharge the batteries. You can't keep going. When you're at your age, you can probably keep going. That's what I used to do. As you get a bit older, you start getting a bit more tired.
Yeah, absolutely. My partner says the same. She says, you need to chill out a little bit.
Yeah, you should listen to her. She's very wise. It took me a long time to get that.
And in regards to the 5 minutes, you just go for a walk or have a coffee or something?
Yeah, just something different, or sit and do a little meditation, bit of breathing maybe.
And with regards to a time in the day, do you work, there's entrepreneurs who work better at night or in the morning?
I think as long as I'm not too tired, I work quite well at night. I find I have a real second wave of energy around 5 o'clock, so 5 to 6 is a really good hour for me to do some work.
Okay.
And then sometimes early in the morning as well.
Okay, so it
varies,
it varies.
Yeah.
Okay, great stuff. And in regards to tasks and doing certain tasks on your calendar or your schedule, I mean, how do you personally prioritise those tasks? Because it's quite easy for us to go for the easiest thing first. Yeah. And kind of.
And I still sometimes do, let's tick that one off.
Yeah.
I sometimes do that.
Yeah.
And that's discipline. Discipline is one of those things we're always learning and always trying to work on. And I think part of it comes from urgency. But what do I need to do? Because I've got so much to do. What do I need to do? And I work well to deadline. So a big tip, if you're someone, I don't know if you do, Alex, but if I've got a deadline, I will sometimes, I've got an article to write for a magazine. I know a month ahead I'm doing it, but probably the last couple of days before is when I sit down and actually do it. And I probably write a better article then, because I'm focused on that and just that.
Wow.
Whereas if I've got a month to, I'll kind of dip into it. So actually, by doing things when I need to, actually gets me a bit more focused.
So it stimulates something to focus more.
So a tip, if anyone's like that, is to actually give yourself an artificial deadline. You say, well, okay, I know it's supposed to be next week, but I need to do it by tomorrow, and then that might encourage you to get it done. I'd sometimes do that.
Great stuff, fantastic. With regards to good habits, now first I want to touch on what bad business habits do you have?
Bad business habits, not always doing the right thing I should do. Okay. Sometimes getting distracted, and there are some things that are just not a good use of my time. So I have a PA and I'm trying to get better. I am getting better.
You are getting better.
No, forget that try words. Yeah, I am getting better
Yeah.
at delegating to my PA and say, look, can you do that? And she's there, willing and able to do stuff.
Yeah.
So that's important. So I don't always, although I tell other people value time, I don't always value my own time.
Right.
I don't always put in the downtime I should put in, because I know I should have downtime, and I kind of want to push through, and I find that harder to do these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because I like talking to people, I can get distracted by things. Okay. So someone will call me up, and someone might say, hey, Alex wants you to come and do this interview. I have to think, well, do I really want to do that, or is it really going to move my business forward? And I think that's a really good thing to have. And this probably isn't going to move my business forward, but I want to support you, because I'm so pleased with what you've achieved, Alex, and I think you're a great inspiration to many people, and so I want to support you in this new venture. So that's why I'm doing this interview.
Thank you.
Probably not going to move me forward really, but I just want to congratulate you and thank you, because you've done really well. I think it's a great project you're doing here.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So now, good habits. What would you suggest that a budding entrepreneur should develop straight off the bat in developing a good habit that's going to make a massive, significant difference in the business?
So rituals, things you do consistently. So it might be your morning routine. A good habit I find is when I plan my day. So often the night before, I'll think, right, what do I want to do tomorrow? What's the most important thing I need to do? What do I need to achieve? And then what's the second most important thing, third most important, and then prioritize my tasks in the day. So managing your time, managing the tasks is a really good habit to get in place. Okay. And that comes from planning.
Yeah.
Another really good habit is thinking. And it might sound a bit strange, but I mean, actually sitting down, and I like to think with a pen. So I've got a pad of paper, and I sit and I think, and I write stuff down, and I make notes. And I don't do it on a computer, again, because I like to do it with a pen. I'm old-fashioned maybe, but I do use a computer, by the way, just not for lots of things. Absolutely, yeah. But I just like to sit and write and just think, and I think about something, and I kind of think, okay, what's the good, what's the consequence of that? And thinking things through is a really good habit, because I'm quite tempted. I want to do it, but I'll do it now. And I just need to slow down and just check it's the right thing to do sometimes.
Interesting. So, if you could have a 60-second conversation with your younger self at 18, what's the one thing you would tell yourself to be in the man you are today?
I'd probably say a few things.
Okay.
The first thing is, don't worry, it's going to be okay.
Great, I like that. I really like that. Yeah.
And then I'd say something like, try and work out what you want to do and follow your passion. Okay. Because that's really important. Too many people spend their whole lives doing something they don't want to do just because they're trying to pay the bills. So find out something you're passionate about. I'd also add the comment about, look to see where you can always add value. We've already talked about. You know, if you can add value to it, so don't see what you can get out of things, what can you put into things, what can you give other people, how can you increase value so that you become indispensable to them.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
It's a piece of advice. And you might have to edit this out, but I'd probably say shag more.
Right.
I was very innocent in my younger days.
Great.
You know, I think I probably didn't take full advantage of my youth.
Great.
You might want to edit that bit, I don't know. But
okay, I like it. It's great.
Go in the outtakes.
So threw me off.
That's throwing you now, Alex, isn't it?
Yeah. So with passion and finding your passion, how would you suggest an entrepreneur or someone, a close friend, would find the passion? Because for me, it wasn't property.
No, me neither.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how does someone find the passion?
I think when you write a list down of what things you like doing. So what do you like to do? And then think about, okay, well, you know, I like to ski. Could I make money from that? Could I make a living from that? Well, I could become a ski instructor. I don't want to do that much, but it's something I just like to do. So what are things you love to do? What's your experience? I think to be successful in business is a combination of what your interests are, what your natural talents are, and then what there's a demand for as well. You've got to have all three of those to kind of have a business that's going to work and make you money.
Right.
Okay. So by thinking about what I enjoy, and then if you talk to someone about it, and you can see it in someone's eyes when they light up about something, they're passionate about it. And if you can follow something you're passionate about, you're going to be more successful. So start with writing a list of all the things you like to do. Think of why do you like them? What does you get out of those? Talk to people about it and ask them, say, look, if I can't really light up, so tell me when that is. And you say, oh yeah, no, I do like that. That kind of makes a lot of sense to me.
So with regards to the passion again, I mean, if someone's passionate about, for example, I don't know, zips, coat zips, or passionate about a button on a jacket, or whatever it may be, that's not necessarily monetizable in the sense of becoming a multi-millionaire.
How do you know it's not going to be? So, for example, this day and age, let's say you have got a fashion age with zips.
Yep.
Okay, so there'll be zips from all over the world, different types of zips, different types of mechanisms, and there will be other people who are interested in zips. So you could start a blog about zip, and why you find them passionate, and pictures of them, and Instagram, you take lots of pictures, and you know, and there will be some other people who are equally interested in zips, and you can create a bit of a following, and then maybe you can get some sponsorship. There are people who are on Twitter, who are on Facebook, and they've got massive followings, the blogs and things, and because of that, they then monetize it. So maybe there's there's a new zip convention they can go to, and they become a speaker, and they're not only writing about it, they speak about zips. So it's a silly example, but it's a great example because it's an unusual thing.
It's interesting. So
you're not going to be the only sado interested in zips. No. There'll be some other sados out there as well.
But with regards to, I mean, like you touched on that, so basically you can become successful if you are passionate about zips, for example. This is not exactly mainstream.
It's not exactly mainstream, but actually, if you go niche, there might be not many other people who are interested, but actually there might be people who collect zips.
Yes.
And you might become an aficionado about zips and things. And you know, zips may not be your entire life, so there might be some other things. And sometimes, you know, if someone's in a job, right, and they think, I give up my job and I'm going to start writing about zips, that's not a clever thing to do.
No.
But if you put the time and effort in and you build your personal brand and become the zip man or zip woman, whatever, and get to the point where maybe you do start to get endorsements and things, well, maybe that eventually surpasses your income. So I'm all for people having a bit of common sense about this, you know, not giving up a really good job to follow, I'm going to be the next zip expert, you know, and I'm not saying it's not possible.
It's like calculated risk then.
Yeah, absolutely, Like people in property, they say, I'm going to give up my job and just do it. I say, no, don't do that. I say, keep the job because you're more mortgageable, you've got all your bases covered, and spend your spare time. If you're really that passionate about it, you will find that the motivation, the time in your evenings and weekends to put in the effort you need to get the results, to get the income, to then eventually replace your job.
Wow, great. It's a great strategy. And regards to, I mean, calculated risk, is there a way you take calculated risk? Do you weigh out the pros, the cons?
I do. I'm much better at it now. I used to be very much kind of wanting to help other people and say yes to things too easily. And you know what? A real success tip is learning to say no. You can't do everything.
Interesting.
And it's not, someone said, I can't remember who it was, it's not the number of things you say yes to, it's the number of things you say no to that dictates your success.
I think what Warren Buffett said, what separates the successful from the unsuccessful is that the successful say no to almost everything.
And it may well have been, that's the kind of thing Warren Buffett would say. And he should know, because he's pretty successful,
he's
right?
pretty successful, definitely. So, I mean, coming on to success again, do you think there's a formula to success? Do you think there's a specific formula? Or?
I don't know. I do believe that we create our own success. We create our own luck by the choices we make. And sometimes people say, oh yeah, but this has happened to me. Well, things happen to you, but you can choose how you react to that, the meaning you give to that. And so I think everyone has the capacity to be successful. But again, what do you mean by success?
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Success is not just finance. You might have someone a successful person might be someone who is successfully raises 2 kids, because that's all they want to do. They want to raise 2 kids, and the kids turn out normal, and they go and contribute to society. Well, that's a success, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So and I think sometimes people put too much emphasis on success being about money. Well,
true.
That's an indication of success. But if you say success is maybe about being happy and fulfilled, there are lots of people that make lots of money and they might have an excellent job, get really good, or might have their own business and they get really well paid, but they hate what they do. So are they successful? Well, no, I'd say. So I think success is about, money is an indicator of it, but that's definitely the only thing. I think it's about being happy and content with the way you are. That's, to me, success.
I like that. It's great. And in regards to being a multi-millionaire and success, I know it's financial terms, but a lot of concepts, for example, people play the lottery and they have this kind of vision of themselves jumping in their sofas and watching the numbers come out. I mean, when building a business and you realised, oh my God, look, I'm a multi-millionaire, how did that make you feel any different? What kind of feeling did you get?
It does make you feel different.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't worry. I mean, I have my own problems, but I don't worry about small things. If I go out and have a meal, I don't even have to worry about it.
Great.
You know, I'm not looking at the menu thinking, oh, what's the cheapest thing to have? You know. I'm not saying I'd be extravagant for the sake of it. I'm not a very materialistic person. I don't drive, so I don't have flash car. I've got a nice house, got a nice watch. That's about it, really.
Okay.
You know, I will, for example, now when I travel, I go business class when I fly, because I like to lie down flat and get some sleep, because I recognise I value my time, and if I don't sleep properly on a plane, because I do a lot of travel, I'm then losing time the next day. So I'd rather spend the extra money and have a good night's sleep as much as I can, sleep rather than not sleep. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So
definitely.
I really don't mind spending money on myself, whereas in the past I might have not wanted to do that.
You'd
So
watch
I
it.
value myself. I value my body. I
Great.
value my mind. I have we all have an incredible capacity to generate a huge amount of wealth.
Yeah.
We've got to look after ourselves.
Definitely.
And so I would spend money to do that.
Wow. Okay. Thank you very much. That's great. And regards to, being success, and I've experienced it in my own life, becoming financially independent myself. Not quite on your level yet.
You'll get there, I'm sure. and Alex, you'll get there quicker than me, because the first 8 years I was just doing it on my own, didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it took me 8 years to replace my income. You've done it in a year.
Yeah.
So who's the smartest, right?
Right. Okay. In that. Thank you. And with regards to being successful in my own life, and I'm sure you've experienced this, and to be honest, a lot of people who I follow, like Grant Cardone and Gary Vaynerchuk and stuff, they seem to have a lot of haters and naysayers. And how would you handle them?
So the more successful you get, and especially in this day of social media where people can see it, unfortunately you do get some people who are jealous, and I think sometimes people, through their own insecurities, if they can have a go at someone else, it makes them feel better.
Yeah, behind the keyboard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, keyboard warriors, as we call them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are some of those, and I guess when it first happens, it's really hard. You think, oh my God, I don't even know this person. What have I ever done to them?
Yeah.
And so that it can be really hard. But a couple of things there. First of all, the most successful people have lots of haters, have lots of people who are critical. And so if you kind of think, well, if I want to be like them, to say that you can't just have it all and not have the negative side. Yeah. So accept that it's going to happen, first of all. Okay. Then recognize that, if it was someone who was significant, who was someone who was important, who was saying something, I might be a bit more bothered. Okay. But because it's probably a nobody anyway, I kind of, although you might think, oh, it's going to get to me, you can decide if you allow it to get to you or not. Great. So and very often they want a reaction, and if you don't react at all, they get bored and they'll go and find someone else to annoy. So it's your own internal kind of drive. Am I going to let this thing affect me? Yeah, and don't get me wrong. When you say that, you think, am I gonna send them a nuclear bomb via thing? But you don't. You think, you know what? And there's a great saying, which is one of my friends, Peter Thompson, has a great saying. He says, "Don't work with tossers." Yeah, which is quite a great piece of advice. Okay, so if you think someone's a tosser, don't argue with an idiot. If you argue with an idiot, it makes two of them, right? So rather than engaging in it, just ignore it. And if it gets too aggressive or too nasty, send them a solicitor's letter. Yeah, nice. I like it. The problem is you can't sue them because they've probably got nothing anyway. So it's not really worth getting too upset about it. Yeah, I mean, they always hide behind the keyboards anyway, don't they? It's one of those things. So with regards to your vision and your long-term vision, every day you get up from your bed, what motivates you and inspires you to keep going every single day? So I like new things. I like variety. This year I'm expanding my business, so we're going international, which is quite exciting. We're partnering with some people to do that, so using leverage. I'm also finally this year setting up the charity that I want to set up, which is going to schools and teaching kids about money and entrepreneurship. Amazing. I wish I had learned some of the stuff I know now. If I'd learned it in school, wow, how different it would be. And it's not teachers' fault because they're just a victim, if you like, of the system. They're just employees themselves. And you sometimes get people from banks going into schools to teach people about money. Well, they're just employees as well. And it's better someone gives them a little bit of knowledge than nothing. But I want to go in and use leverage. So we've helped so many people become financially independent in property. We can go back to those people and say, hey, how would you like to come in and go into your local schools? We want to train you and do the various police checks and things, obviously. But go in and if you can just change one or two kids in a group and get them to think differently and say, you know what, you don't have to rely on someone else giving you a job. You could have your own job. In fact, you could create jobs for other people. Wouldn't you like to have people working for you? And that, because in this country, it's a tragedy. We have generations and generations of being on benefits. And the parents are on benefits, and the parents' parents are on benefits, and they think that's, they think, oh, there are no jobs. Well, yes, there are. You can create jobs. Conditioning, would you say? It is conditioning, and it's hard for them. But if we can just ignite a spark in some of those kids' minds and get them to think differently, and if we can do this it's just a generation of work, we can really change this country from the grassroots. And that's my passion at the moment. That's my new business, my new charity I'm launching.
You can tell you're very passionate about it, definitely.
I am. And the other thing is, it makes me really angry when people set up charities and, so much of the money that's contributed never goes to the good cause because they've got all this admin costs and the directors get salaries. So I don't need any income from that. So there's going to be no directors getting paid. And my business is going to pay for the admin staff to run it. So any money that goes into it is all spent on the schools training people. So it's 100% contribution charity. And that's how I think charity should be done.
That's amazing. And do you think in the future that basically a lot of the workforce now that we know in today's time will dramatically change into entrepreneurship?
I think they're going to have to, because if you listen to people who talk about what's happening in the future, look at technology, so much automation coming in and systems being used that actually many of the jobs that are done right now, they won't be around in the future. So what are people going to do? I mean, an example, I was listening to the radio the other day and I heard that Uber reckon in 5 years all their cars will be driverless.
Wow.
So imagine taxi drivers no longer required. What are they going to do?
Sure,
and that's not the only thing that's going to be affected. So a lot of jobs that people do right now, particularly manual jobs or automated jobs, robots, computers are going to be doing them.
Wow.
So what is the human race going to do in 20 years' time maybe? So wouldn't it be a great idea to do something different now, rather than just relying on someone else to give you an income? Why not have your own business? So you've got a bit more freedom, a bit more choice. And you might do that part-time at first, keep the job going, and then when you get to a point the income is more than you get from the job, then maybe give up the job.
Amazing.
If that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I love it. Because I honestly believe that entrepreneurship is going to take off in the next 5-10 years.
I think so,
More and more entrepreneurs are going to come into the market.
Yeah, especially with all the technology that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Because the nature of jobs will change. You'll need people to support the technology and create the technology and innovate as well.
There's going to be more jobs with regards to starts and things.
Yeah.
So when you're launching a business, again, just touching on, when everyone, I've experienced in my own life, my own personal life, when everyone around you is so negative, how do you remain positive?
So I think first of all, you need to recognise why they're being negative. And often it's because that they love you and they don't want you to make a mistake and you don't want to have problems. But also there's a little bit of insecurity in that, well, Alex, if you become really successful, will you still want to be our friend? Will you still want to hang around us?
Okay.
So there's a bit of insecurity from them maybe.
Okay.
So I think if you are clear on what you're doing and why you're doing, you just have to have that determination to just keep going. And if you can link in with mentors to help guide you, so you're not trying to do it all on your own, find people who've been more successful, who've done what you want to do and work with them. And even if you go and work for free for someone who's achieved what you want to achieve, you'll learn so much from that experience.
Yeah.
It's probably worth doing.
Yeah.
So get other people to help you, and then get that like-minded group around you. Get a peer group around you who are like you and want to achieve the same thing as you to help you grow. And you need that boost of positivity from other people if it's not in your natural environment.
So seek other positive people.
Yeah, and then choose what you put into your head.
Yeah.
Rather than listening to the news and reading the paper and watching TV, listen to personal development CDs, watch videos like this, and just fill yourself with the right kind of information that's going to inspire you, rather than something that's going to make you doubt what you can do and hold you back.
Wow. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Absolutely. With regards to businesses, there's so many opportunities out there.
Yeah.
What would you suggest to an entrepreneur how to spot good opportunities?
There is opportunity everywhere, and that's often the problem. There's so many opportunities. Well, where do I go? What do I do? And I think it's really important to think about. Okay, so what do I want to achieve? Is this in line with my values? Is there a market? Can I monetize this? Is it going to work and produce an income? And is it something I want to be doing for a while? Because you need to put time and effort in for a while. You can't, people sometimes look at PIN and say, wow, that's been an overnight success. Well, it's been an overnight success 14 years in the making.
Absolutely,
people sometimes look at successful people and think, oh, it's easy. It's not easy. It really is not easy, but it is possible if you're determined, if you're persistent, if you get some support and help, get the right people around you, anything is possible.
Fantastic. So just to finish off on a few fun questions. I know you've mentioned your favourite film already, so what is your favourite song?
Erasure, A Little Respect.
Okay.
Big Erasure fan, 80s I'm afraid,
Before my time.
So. Yeah, it probably was, You probably don't even know who Erasure is. You have to go and look it up.
I will.
Go look it up on iTunes, it's a great song. You would have heard it, but you may not know it.
Now I'm a big reader.
Yes.
Your favourite book?
My favourite book, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee.
Wow, okay, I've never read that either.
It's a Pulitzer Prize winner. You should go and read it. It's a brilliant book.
Wow, okay. And your favourite place to travel in the world? Anywhere in the world?
I love New York.
New York, why?
New York's a great city.
Why?
It's such a buzzing atmosphere there, some great places to go and do. It's just an amazing atmosphere in New York. I love it.
Wow, fantastic, okay. And ending question, what is the most important life lesson that you've learned so far in your career of being in business?
I think we've probably covered it a few times, which is make sure you're giving value to other people.
Value.
Putting value out there, yeah.
I like that.
The greater your value, the more you're going to make.
Well, I just want to say a massive thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Alex. Great to be here.
For inspiring not only me, but other successful entrepreneurs through the Property Investors Network. You've been an absolute inspiration to me. And I just want to say that if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here doing this and working on my passions. And it's been an absolute honour in knowing you. So,
Great. Thank you very much, Alex.
Cheers.
Congratulations. Thank you.